Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to the channel. So this is going to be the first of my new style of training recap videos. So my plan for the channel now that I'm done with the marathon build, I can kind of switch things up a little bit, is every Monday at 4 o'clock like I was doing for my marathon build, I'm going to come out with a weekly training recap. But this time it's just going to be like simple video of me sitting on the couch talking about how the week of training went. Without like any like cutaways to footage and things like that, because then I want to do separate videos for those days. So like whenever I do something cool, I'm gonna film that and make kind of like a vlog style thing around that adventure, which I plan on doing at least like probably one of those a week too. So now you'll be getting like around 2 videos a week from me, maybe more, maybe less some days, or some weeks, but every week you will definitely get a training recap that comes out on Monday around 4 o'clock, which should be fun. Yeah, and so I guess I should talk about my training, get into this video. It is Monday, May 29th right now, and this was my first real week of training back from my marathon. I've been doing some cycling and some hiking before, but now I'm like actually getting into some training. And you might be like, oh, what are you training for, Carter? So I'm training for the Ragged Mountain 50K. It's a 50-kilometer race that is August 6th or 7th or something, whatever that Sunday is. And it's the US 50K Trail National Championship, which is super fun. It should be competitive, which will be really cool. I've done this race before. It was actually my first ultra. I did pretty bad. I just wanted to finish the race. It took me like 8 hours and 40 minutes. I would love if I could do this race in 6 hours or less. To give some background, the terrain is it's like half road and then half like hard mountains, which is weird because like I guess ideally on the road sections you'd go like 7:30 pace if like my kind of goals, and then on the mountain sections like 12:30 pace and then average 10-minute pace for it. That would be like a really good day. Yeah, but it's interesting to train for because you need some road speed for the roads, so that 7:30 pace feels easy. But then you need to be able to like run up technical mountains. So that'll be interesting to train for, and that's what my whole summer training will be focused around. I should also get into my kind of training style approach to training. So it's a little different now that I'm not doing a road race. For the marathon build-up, like paces matter a lot for a marathon, but for ultra events and trails, it's more about fitness than like pace. Like I don't need to worry about like leg speed or like being really used to a certain pace. And so because it's also on trails, you can't track by distance really. The distance is gonna be totally different. Running a mile where you gain 700 feet in that mile is gonna take longer and it's gonna be more intensive than a mile on the roads. So because of that, I go by time, but I don't just want to say time. I don't just want to say like, oh, I trained like 10 or 15 hours this week, because different like amount of time it's different depending on how hard you're going. If I'm if I'm going really hard for 10 minutes, that's a lot more intense and impacts my training more, and also has more fatigue with it than going easy for 10 minutes. So because of that, I break up my training into time at different zones. I use heart rate zones, but I kind of made my own heart rate zones that don't go by like the standard things. I do 4 zones roughly. So my easiest zone is just aerobic endurance. Think like ultra endurance event intensity. For me, that's heart rate between like 120 all the way up to like 160 beats per minute. And that's, I should tell you, I'm very into lactate training. I don't have a way to measure my lactate, but I know like based on my race performances, what paces and heart rates my lactate kind of creeps up at. And so that aerobic endurance is kind of around where you just like based on lactate, you don't approach your threshold at all. So your body has very low levels of lactate. And so then I track hours spent at aerobic endurance effort, so between 120 and 160 beats per minute, which I can put into my Coros, which is really nice. And then a second zone is LT1. people treat LT1 differently. Like, it's a big thing in the triathlon and cycling community. Not really a big thing in the running community. But for me, it's the zone where I start accumulating lactate, but it's below my lactate threshold. So I'm accumulating lactate, but my body's able to clear it out at a pretty good rate so that, like, lactate doesn't stay around for too much. And so think of this as like marathon effort type things. And so for me, that's 160 beats per minute to 170 beats per minute. A lot of people, that's like the moderate zone, the gray zone, where like people don't like to train in. And I agree, if you're like a 5K runner or less, like, yeah, you probably don't want to train in that, because if you're gonna add physiological stress, you'd rather do that by working on your 5K pace or faster. But for me, because most of my races being like fast 50Ks and marathons, the heart rate should be around 160 to 170. So that's actually a really important zone for me to train. And then my last zone that I really train in is LT2, and that's like just at and around my lactate threshold and past it. And so for me, that's 170 beats per minute up to 185 beats per minute. My lactate threshold is somewhere around like 178 beats per minute, so it's kind of in that zone right around there where my body's fighting to clear the lactate as it's producing it to overcome the harder intensity and lack of oxygen that produces lactate. Yeah, and then I have another category of like heart rate higher than 185 beats per minute. That's just my VO2 max, is what I call it. You could call it maximal intensity, things like that. All right, so now that I've defined my training zones and my training philosophy, let's get into the week. Oh, one other thing to mention is, so like that breakdown, it's a way of tracking training, but I don't really say like, oh, this week I want to get 10 hours at aerobic endurance, 2 hours at LT1, and 1 hour at LT2. Like, I don't think of it like that. It's more making sure I'm on the right pace. And depending on what I'm training for, I'll have different time in those different zones. So like in marathon training, I'll have a lot of time in LT1 and some in LT2, but like right now for 50K training, I want most of my time in aerobic endurance and LT1, not much LT2, and like no VO2 max. But training LT2 is still important because I need to always be improving my lactate threshold. It's just not a focus. Yeah, and I write down my training in this little notebook. Could do an Excel file. I just like to write stuff down sometimes. Yeah, and then another thing I keep track of is vert, because I like mountains, I like running uphill, so keeping track of vertical feet climbed is also important, because almost like how leg speed and turnover is important for like mile and 5K runners, physiology at running up hills and vert is kind of comparable and important. So this week I had a really big week because I ended up going to the White Mountains over Memorial Day weekend, which today's Memorial Day that I'm filming. And yeah, I spent 3 days climbing a lot of 4,000 foot peaks in the White Mountains. Yeah, and just training hard, long days. I also had a pretty crazy bike ride. So I got a total of like 16.7 hours of training, which might be the most I've ever had in 1 week of like actual intense training. And that is 16.7 hours is aerobic endurance plus LT1 plus LT2 time. I didn't get any VO2 max time. So on Monday, I did a trail run on the Appalachian Trail, pretty short, just 4 miles, because I'm just getting back from taking time off after my marathon. Yeah, and so that was my Monday. On Tuesday, I ran at this cool park, Pine Park, where it was runnable the entire way, so I was able to get a lot of running, which I hadn't done in a while. It was like 7.5 miles-ish. And it was also hot, and I kind of felt like going fast because it was fun running, so I got more time at like LT1 and LT2 there. But it's good to get some intensity, right? And then on Wednesday, I ran on the Appalachian Trail again, but normally I run starting at this road called 3 Mile Road, north to Moose Mountain, which you guys have seen a lot. But on this day, I ran south on the Appalachian Trail for the first time ever. went over Velvet Rocks. So basically, took the Appalachian Trail into downtown Hanover, which is the town where Dartmouth College is. Yeah, and it was really fun, super amazing technical terrain. I think I have a clip of that too that I can show. But I will be running there a lot more. And then on Thursday, I had a 50-mile bike ride. Yeah, so I have gotten into cycling recently, honestly just in the past month. And I went riding on my own first and then met up with some friends. But I'd gotten a lot of miles on my own and then gotten more with the friends. And so it turned out that by the time I was done with my ride, the friends, I was at like 42 miles. And I was like, all right, well, 50 miles sounds cool because I'm new to biking. So I'm not going to end at 42 miles, I'll get 50. And so that was really fun. Was able to get like 3.5 hours of training with no impact, which is why I call cycling like free fitness, because you don't pay the physiological like stress that you do for running, but then you get like a bunch of time like building your aerobic base. So that was really cool. Hopefully do some other long rides soon. On Friday I did an easy hike with friends up trails right behind my apartment up to this quarry. That was fun. Got like 2.7 miles there in like half an hour at aerobic endurance, which was really fun. But then on Saturday I drove up to the White Mountains to spend my weekend there. And on Saturday I ran up Flume in Liberty. I'll have a separate video on each of these days. So I'll have one video on the hiking I did on Saturday, one video on my adventures on Sunday, and one on Monday. Those will come out during the week. But on Saturday, I did Flume and Liberty, which was 8.9 miles, 3,700 feet of elevation gain. Took me like 3 hours roughly. Really fun, insanely steep climb, but you can get more into that in the video on that specific day. On Sunday, I had an even bigger day. In the morning, I ran up Willie, Tom, and Field, which are 3 other 4,000 footers. That was 9.1 miles, 3,700 feet of gain. Really tough. And that took also around 3 hours. And then I got some lunch, took a break for an hour, and then went and ran up another 4,000 footer, Mount Moriah, which is 8.6 miles, 3,400 feet of gain. And so that day total was like 18 miles with over 7,000 feet of elevation gain, which is pretty wild. That was a hard day. And I ended that week totaling over 15,000 feet of elevation gain, which is pretty brutal. And that's not even counting what I did today, that you'll hear about next week. But yeah, that was my recap of my training. I'll try to figure out how to do these better. I'll probably throw some clips in for some of them. Yeah, but really great week. Feels good to be training again. This next week, I'm going to take it a little easier because a 16-hour week takes a lot out of you, 16, 17 hours. Definitely into some overtraining. I can feel very fatigued. So yeah, this next week will be a lot easier. I'm traveling, going on a lot of hikes, a lot of easy runs. Yeah, just recovering, with the exception of maybe one hard effort midweek, which I'll make a separate video on. And yeah, getting ready for some serious training. I'm very excited. I loved going into the 4,000 footers again, doing some peak bagging, and I think you guys will really enjoy my films on that Adventure in the Whites, a 3-part like mini-series thing. And that will hopefully be coming out this week, maybe 1 or 2 days separating each event, because it takes time to edit. But yeah, it was really fun, really enjoyed it, and yeah, hope you like the way the channel's headed. You'll kind of get a feel more like during the week with those videos coming out. But I think it just makes sense. These videos are the people that are really interested, like, oh, what's Carter doing for his training? How's he doing? Whereas the other videos will be people that are like, ooh, I want to see really cool terrain, really fun workouts, and more like visual and not getting into like the nitty-gritty training. Yeah, I expect that those videos will do better than these ones. This is more just, for those that care about what I'm up to. Yeah, but hope you enjoy. I'd really appreciate if you could like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with anyone you know, and as always, keep on running.